when they get older, now they're teens or now they're older into their young adult ages, and then that's when we want to spend time with them. It's a hard switch, for kids to say, "Why do I want to hang out with you right now? You didn't want to hang out with me before. You didn't see me as important as much before, so why now?"
What is up, everybody? It's Ed Gow Jr. of the Dad Central Show and Dad Central. And you know what? I got the privilege of being with this guy today.
Well, thank you, Ed. Yeah, Drew Solon of Dad Central and the Dad Central Show. And I have the distinct privilege of being with you today. So how are you doing?
I'm doing outstanding. Always love meeting new dads, fathers, caregiver, and fatherhood authorities, I guess, when we do these conversations. And when we're recording this, I got a question. Drew, are we going to get any spring?
Of course. It's coming.
When? Oh, well,
I think it's supposed to be where in Toronto, it's supposed to be 12 tomorrow.
Okay.
15 the day after, isn't it? So yeah, it's coming.
A week ago,
gotta have faith.
I do, but I'm just saying faith. a week or so ago, I was shoveling snow. I don't know about you.
Oh, 2 days ago.
What?
I still had snowflakes falling this morning. It's okay.
See,
it's gone. It's leaving.
Okay, that's why Drew and I don't live together, because he loves the snow more than I do.
Ed, you know that's not true. I am not a winter fan. But maybe maybe.
All right. Well, let's get down to the real deal here. The Dad Central Show is sponsored by Dove Men Plus Care. Dove Men Plus Care believes that care is the best of a man, because when men care for themselves or others, there's a positive impact. And that's what we're all about here, having positive impact through the Dad Central Show. So anything else going on before we start another epic conversation, young man?
You know there's always stuff going on. And that's why I said I had the distinct pleasure of being with you today, because you've helped me shift my mindset into a better place. So thank you.
I received that. And just a message out there, whether you're watching live, watching the replay, or listening to this, I want to really just make a suggestion. Dads, fathers, male caregivers, don't try to do things back to back. Take a break, even if it's 3 minutes, 2 minutes, 5 minutes, etc., because we're in a society that's telling us to go, 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 go. Well, as I always say, there's a famous race called the Indianapolis 500. My question is, how many racers finish on one tank of gas? They have to go in, get pit stops, such like that. So, just a suggestion, even if it's 3 or 4 minutes, just take that break. Just block out everything that's happened before and just spend some you time. All right, Drew, let's go.
Well, today, I think we're fortunate to have Bryan Saint-Louis as our guest on the show. Bryan Saint-Louis, he's a highly experienced youth development expert who empowers youth wherever he goes, while providing advisory services to educators that help establish environments that promote mental health, empowerment, and creativity, which ultimately leads to youth living their best authentic lives. Yet, I'm going to say this, it's not part of his intro, creating those types of environments for youth to thrive is probably helpful for dads to know as well. But Bryan's also a dad himself. So, Bryan, welcome to the show. We're excited to have you.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much. I really appreciate the introduction. Appreciate the ability to even be on the show. Thank you guys so much for this.
Well, we're really happy.
It's our pleasure.
Yeah, we're happy to have you. You want to kick it off, Drew?
Yeah. Well, Bryan, we like to get a little bit of the backstory on our guests. So why don't you just give us a little background into what was life like for you growing up?
Man, yeah, I'll throw it out there, man. So I grew up in New York. I was born in Montreal, though. Grew up in New York a year, moved literally 1 year after. So I didn't have a lot of experience in Montreal, Canada. But, my mom was still very bent on the fact that I had to learn French. So I still speak French. Je parle français. It's one of those things that I have to be very keen on. To this day, if I go back home, I speak to my mom in English. She's like, "Qui t'a appris l'anglais comme ça?" She's always telling me to speak French to her. I'm like, dang, all right, cool. My fault, Mom. I'm sorry. Uh,
Just
33
good
years
respect
old.
for
So
your mom, no matter
that's
what.
it.
That's good.
That's it, man. Doesn't matter how old you get, you got to be respectful to your mom, man. So I grew up in New York. Had a pretty good upbringing overall, man. To be honest, though, I'm gonna be pretty transparent here. The deeper I keep looking into my life, things keep coming up that may have thrown away, and I may have not fully processed. And now that as you get older, you're able to try to look at it in a different perspective and be able to heal from things as well. But overall, man, I had a great childhood. My father was very much in my life. I grew up as a pastor's son. My father was a minister since I think he was 30 as well, 30 or 33. So growing up as a PK also was a whole different lifestyle as well. But overall, it was something that I had to learn what it meant to actually build that relationship with my parents.
Hmm.
As you're going around in different schools and you see how different kids are with their parents. I grew up as a Caribbean background. My parents are from Haiti. It's not always the easiest to say the least. But my brothers they always try to tell me, you had it much easier than us. So so at the end of the day, I have nothing to complain about to them. But I always think about how my father was to me, and growing up, I used to be afraid of my dad. I had this concept where I didn't know. I learned more fear than love. As I kept growing older, that fear changed more into love. As we built a different relationship, as we connected deeper, that turned into basically as I became an adult. I think my father more so these days sees me as a good friend, as someone we can actually talk to and connect with. But growing up as a kid, as much as I love my dad, I think there were some things that psychologically I used to fear him more than anything else. And as I grew up and became a dad myself, I remember telling myself, this was something that I never want my children to experience. I want them to be very keen as to who I am to them. And there's always a healthy fear to have your dad, in a sense, but I don't think that it's one where we don't want to be too close to our parents. And so that's something that has always helped my philosophy on how I deal with my children right now.
Hmm.
I want to jump in. You said there was fear
Yeah.
growing up with your dad. Was there a moment or moments where that fear became love?
Yeah, man. My dad, he was someone who was always there. One of the things that a lot of PKs have a problem about is the fact that their fathers aren't present in their lives. And that was one of those concerns that I never had with my dad. I can't say the same for my brothers. I don't know if things switched up for my father because I'm the youngest in the family, so I don't know if my dad ended up switching things up throughout his life, but my father was very present. Everything that he did, everything that I did, he was very involved with. If it was basketball games, if it was events that I had in school, violin, anything that I did, my dad was always there. And so even the punishments that I had as a child, again, and now growing up, more so into my early childhood, so 8 to 10, and then teenage years, my father wasn't actually my main disciplinarian. It was actually my mom. And some people don't talk about that as much. They always say the dad is the main disciplinarian, but especially in Caribbean households, a lot of times it's the mom, man. But
I feel you.
yeah, man. And so as I grew older, I started having this different relationship where I was actually happy seeing my father. So I'll be very transparent. I don't think I've ever told anybody this, besides like my wife or anything of that nature. But I feel free to kind of share this. I used to have these dreams where I would go into the car and it's crazy. I'm actually sharing this. I would go into the dream, and I'd go into the car, and my father would come out the house, and he was very angry. And I remembered, being panicking, and I'd be like fearful of what's going on. And then ultimately, we would drive down the hill of my house, and the dream would end. But I would wake up just in a panic. And again, this is like this psychological thing that's going on through my mind. Like, why am I having these dreams about my father? One day, I think I was about 10 years old, and because I used to have dreams a lot, I was about 10 years old at the time, and my father had the same dream. Father came out upset, but this time he turned and looked at me and said, "Hey, let's just go get some ice cream. Let's talk." And then I was like, "Okay, cool." We drove down the hill. Dream ends. Don't remember getting the ice cream in the dream, but then I never had the dream again. And I swear, I think from that moment, I think things changed as well as the way that I looked at my dad and how things were in general too. Again, that's why I always talk about that. There's this way in which we sometimes see things, and so much can impact that. And but that's why I'm also again talking about the fact that for my children is very key. I don't want that to ever be an experience for them too. So I would say those moments when I was a kid and I started seeing my father a lot more involved with the things that I love, that probably changed the way that I started seeing him too.
Well, want to thank you for sharing that story. You making you feeling that you're in a safe and brave space to share that. So that's really powerful. Drew.
Yeah, yeah, man.
Yeah, bless you on that. That's a powerful story.
Mhm.
Drew, go ahead.
Yeah, I'll echo Ed's comments. Thank you, Bryan. I'm curious to know if you see any connection between the for you in at that time after that last dream and the connection to your fatherhood and your fatherhood journey and where and then maybe even the work that you're doing now.
So just to be clear, you're saying like what's the connection between that time and
Or
then where?
do you see any connection, or do you feel any connection from that
Yeah,
experience that you had to kind of what you're doing now?
yeah. One of the things that like when I work with a lot of youth, man, and youth tell me, as this person who's very jovial, I'm happy, I'm a big guy, so the kids, they always like, man, who is this person who walks into my schools, right? Once you start building those types of connections, kids like to talk to you and share things as well. And one of the things that I hear a lot, man, is just coming from both boys and girls, they always share the fact that sometimes they don't feel like their fathers are as present in their lives. And so they're there, but they don't have that strong presence that can make those impacts, the way that they feel connected. And a lot of times, we say the fact that, oh, man, we know I put in so much time for my kid. I do so much outside of this in order for my child to be the way that they are, to have the education that they have, or they don't realize the 16 hours that I have. And we bring them to Disney World. We do this, and I'll never forget when somebody told me, I was just watching a clip, and the guy said he told his daughter, what was your favorite moment that we had? And he was thinking she was going to talk about Disney World or talk about the cruise that they went on or talk about the trip that they went to France, all this different stuff. And what she said was, when you went outside and took the sprinklers out and sprayed us with those sprinklers right there and he was blown away because it's the simple things that make us present in the home. That's why, like, I was just doing a men's conference and I spoke about this. The leadership that we have in our home is massive to how our children perceive us. And when I saw the fact that, like, for instance, when my dad was a lot more present and I felt that connection, that deepened our relationship from years. I'm talking about to the fact, like, to this day, me and my dad, I call my father, and I don't remember the last time I had a rift with my dad. you know. Even when I was 25, and I'm probably just sharing stories right now.
That's what the show's about.
But like I was 25
Yeah.
and I was supposed to be a pastor. I actually ended up pastoring as well, but that's a different story. But I quit the seminary at that moment. 2 years, 4 years education and bachelor's, 2 years in master's, and I quit halfway through. And I thought I was going to be the absolute disappointment of my family. I was the youngest child. I was the only one who went into pastoral ministry. So, I felt like I had to be the one to hold the torch, and there was so much pressure on my back. And I'm calling my dad, and mind you, I quit like 6 months ago, and and every time he calls, he's like, "Hey, how's school?" I'm like, "Yeah, straight. It's good." And I'm 25, and I still felt like I couldn't share that because I felt like I was such a disappointment to my family. Um, he realizes that, Bryan, like, come on, man, there's clearly something that's going on. Can you talk to me? I tell him, I don't feel like I could share things with you guys, because I feel as though you're just gonna judge me. It's gonna be X, Y, and Z. And I tell him, at this point, I decided to quit, and I'm getting mad. I'm getting loud with my dad, mind you, and he gets loud back. But he says something that changed my life. I'm telling you right now, changed my life. He said, "Bryan, I'm not mad at you that you quit. I'm just mad that you didn't feel you were able to share this with me." And I was just like, I stopped, like, I'm 25, think I know everything. And I'm just like, I literally stopped. I was like, oh shoot, my dad cares about me. He doesn't just care about what I'm doing. And for years, man, I don't know, man, for years, I've always felt as though the reason people love me is based on my performance. And so hearing that from him, that was such a powerful way for him to say, "Bryan, I love Bryan. I don't love Bryan who is or Bryan who does. I just love my son." And man, I started crying. Man. I told him, I was like, Dad, you have such big shoes to fill, all this different stuff. And he was like, "Bryan, you're not meant to go into my shoes. You have other shoes to fill. You have your own shoes to fill. You don't need to fill my shoes." Gave me a lot of freedom in that, man, and changed our whole relationship again, right? Now, as an adult, changed my relationship with my father. And so I felt like there was these moments throughout my life, again, that fearful moment that, oh, yeah, my dad cares about me, he loves me, he's there with me all the time. Then that moment of, I don't need my parents as much, I'm doing my own thing in the university. And then at that moment, 25, like, oh shoot, like I really need my parents still. I need my dad. I needed that love. I needed that attention. And it shaped the way that I focus and train and teach and love my kids now. If I didn't have these conversations, I don't. Maybe who knows? Maybe I would be a different father as well.
Yeah, Bryan. Thank you so much for bringing us into that experience, but also the challenge that you were going through, and how your father really spoke life and spoke love to you in a moment when you needed it, and the difference that it's made. Your words were, "This changed my life." So really powerful, the influence of your father in those critical moments when his son needed him. And so, yeah, that's powerful. Ed, over to you.
Just piggybacking what Drew just shared, mirroring the good and the stuff you didn't want to carry on from your fatherhood, your father's relation with you. What were some of the things that you said, I'm carrying on what I experienced with my father? What are some of those things when it comes to raising your kids?
I would say one of the most important things is the relationship to humor and to joy. And my dad, every time, he's very humorous, always tries to make people laugh. and he serves a lot. Like that was one of the biggest things that I ever saw in his character. He loves to serve. He loves to serve people, and so I do that with my kids all the time, man. We laugh, we play, and probably more, to be honest, than he did with us. As much as my dad was around, I don't know how much I always played with my father as in that sense. But I that's something that I make sure, with my kids, it's not such a serious relationship all the time. It's this way where let's enjoy each other, let's have fun. But then, there's boundaries that are set. There's things that we have to do at certain times. But man, let's enjoy each other's company, because I never want them to feel like being around me is a burden, and it feels stressful. I want to be, when you're around dad, when you're around mom, this is my time to be. This is my time to relax. This is where we could actually connect. There's times to do work. There's times to do certain things in life as well. But mind you, my son's about to be 5. My other son just turned 2. So I'm not trying to overwork them like that anyway right now. But mind you, I still teach them how to clean. I still teach them, being a part of the household, right? But in small incremental ways that make sense to them, not in major ways that are just too much on their brains right now. But the biggest thing that I want for them is just connection. And so things that we do, we just connect, build bonds. We clean together. We have fun together. We watch TV together. As whenever I give them TV time, like I try not to be far away when my children are on electronics, because number one, I limit their time on electronics a lot, because I don't want them to be raised by electronics. Number one. But when they do watch electronics, not even just because of the fact that I want to be around, but I also want to listen to what's being said on those TVs, because there's a lot of messages that sometimes we see a kid show and we think, oh yeah, that's cool, it's nice and dandy. Next thing you know, they're teaching your child something that can be very detrimental to the development and how they think too. And so I'm very keen on that, making sure that we're a part of this, not only just to connect, but also to understand what is out there. And so we can now decipher, hey, this is good. Hey, this is not. Let's take that out. So yeah, connection.
Okay. I'm going to go on a little bit more here. And I should have probably asked that later, but what has your journey of fatherhood been like?
Uh, my journey of fatherhood has been, it's a hard question to ask, man, or to answer. Not because the past 5 years has been great, and then like I mentioned to you both before, my daughter made me a father, but I was never able to father my daughter. And so 2017 or 2016, actually, my wife was pregnant. She found out on my birthday. She, did this whole thing on my birthday, and we found out, we're gonna have our first child. It was just such a beautiful moment for us. I found out it was gonna be a girl a few months later, and just absolutely blew me away, man. Just that thought of having daddy's little girl, being a girl dad, and just being introduced to fatherhood. That was so impactful to me. Uh, on March 17th, however, March 16th, actually, March 15th. Shoot, I'm messing up my days now. She was born, but we had no idea that there were certain complications that were happening throughout, and she ended up passing away 45 minutes later. And so, man, when I tell you, like, I mourned and I cried I don't think I can ever replicate. It was very hard, for me, for my wife. My wife almost passed away as well in that moment. there was a lot that was going on, for that. So for 2 years, because that happened in 2017, 2 years. My son was born in 2019 in March 6th. Sorry, May 6th. For 2 years, being a father just carried a lot of pain. Carried a lot of pain. But I guess I would say the word is transformation. It's transformation. Uh, I, I went through a journey with that, man, and that's why I'm so particular with my two boys now. I don't ever want to mess up as a father. Uh, when I had that opportunity, not that I had, there was nothing that I had power in with her being alive or not, but having lost such an impactful person in my life, I never want to I never take lightly the understanding of being a father in any way, shape, or form. And so that means, when I mess up, for instance, just even yesterday, nothing crazy, but my child, he was doing something. I was like, "Hey, man, come on!" Like, and I yelled, and then I said, "Shoot, all right." I looked at my 4-year-old. And I said, "Hey, uh, what did Daddy do?" He said, "Daddy yelled." I said, "Okay, was Daddy supposed to yell?" He said, "No." I said, "Is Daddy sorry?" He said, "Are you?" I said, "I'm sorry." and
he calls you out. I love it.
But I did all of that because for me, the relationship between us is so key. And I never want them, again, to fear me in that sense. I want them to always have that connection where we understand each other. But through that, man, again, I say it was transformation, just a journey of understanding. It built my philosophy of empathy. I try so strongly to understand where my child is right now. As much as I can't fully be there, because it's been years that I've been child with a childlike mind. But that's why I read so much. I listen to so many different places, podcasts and research, and how the child minds is developed, so that I can understand where they are, so I can best parent them where they need to go, daily in their lives. That also means being humble enough to say, Luke, Levi, I'm sorry. Please forgive me. I was wrong in this, and let's move forward together. I'm modeling what I want them to do for others. It's not because of the fact that I'm 33 and they're 4, or I'm the adult, that they can't see that from me. If I want them to be great people, I have to model what greatness looks like. And it's one of the things that I think is so key to fatherhood in general, is the ability for us to be able to model what leaders are supposed to be, how we're supposed to build up our children. Because if we want to see great communities, it all starts at home to build up great children.
Are you a dad who feels like you're juggling a million things at once? Balancing work, family, and personal goals can be overwhelming. But what if there was a solution? That's why we created our new fatherhood community called Dad Mentor. For over 20 years, Dad Central has built practical tools to help dads. We understand the challenges you face and provide the support you need to thrive. The biggest complaint we hear from dads is there's no dedicated support for their specific needs. But not anymore. Our new community, called Dad Mentor, is here to transform your fatherhood experience. Imagine feeling in control, staying calm and patient when your children misbehave. Picture yourself connected to your children, guiding them with confidence and watching them succeed. When you join Dad Mentor, you'll have access to a community of like-minded dads committed to their dad journey, just like you. You'll also get the Dad's Roadmap. This is a step-by-step plan to help you go from unsure to unstoppable as a dad. Monthly masterclasses and Q&A sessions. You'll get answers and know exactly what to do straight from experts. Monthly group meetups that connect dads over common topics. A dad's resource library. Curated webinars, podcasts, or guides built by Dad Central to help you grow as a parent. And finally, you'll also get exclusive members-only offers and events. Many dads do try to do this father thing alone, only to find themselves trapped in frustration and strained relationships. Then they may turn to unhealthy coping mechanisms like drugs, alcohol, or other distractions, leaving their family and their own well-being at risk. We don't want you to reach that point of regret. Take steps to invest in you and your family today. Join Dad Mentor and go from stressed, tired, and overwhelmed to confident, calm, and connected. Join us today by going to dadcentral.ca/dads.
Well, before I hand it back to Drew, I want to bless you for your resiliency, your courage,
Yeah.
and your intentionality about being a great father. Um, Powerful story, and thank you for being safe and brave enough to share it with our family. So
Appreciate
just
that.
want to say that. So Drew, hand it back to you.
Well, thank you, Ed. Thanks, Brian. I want to echo Ed's comments. And I think it's really important that stories like what you just shared are shared, and that other dads who have had similar experiences, hear that it's it's hard, it's
Yeah.
painful, but there is hope, right? And I think that it's also okay, because this is one of the areas that fathers go through,
Yeah.
but typically like they fall through the cracks. Nobody notices, nobody recognizes, nobody creates space for them, nobody says, hey, how are you doing with that? Like, I mean, everyone's suffering, right? Your wife was suffering, you were suffering, but most often dads don't ever get that opportunity. And so I want to again acknowledge your courage to share that painful story.
Appreciate that.
But in the light of recognizing it was also transformational for you, I'm wondering if you'd be willing to. You don't have to. What helped you? I know you said you mourned, you grieved, but what helped you move through that very hard, painful period to maybe a healthier place? Because some of the work you're doing is around creating mental health improvements. And so, can you talk about that? What helped you move forward?
First, can I say I didn't do everything right?
Hey, my hand's raised.
Brian, you're not perfect. We're gonna kick you out of the show.
Like I just want to be real with this, because some people think, well, you must, because this was the sentiments. Brian spoke at his daughter's wedding, funeral. Wow, like he's so strong. Brian is comforting other people around him. There was such this allure of how I was in that moment, what I was able to do, and I knew I had to step up, right, in certain aspects, and because man, my wife was still healing from an emergency C-section. There was a lot that, excuse me, man, I'm still recovering from this, but my wife had to deal with this. I knew there were certain things I had to do to step up, to be there. Conversation that I had with my wife that saved our marriage. About 3 days after say about 3 days after we left the hospital. So probably like 7 or 8 days. I looked at my wife and I told her, I said, no arguments, no problems, none of us, we're not going to hurt each other for 6 months. So I told her. So nothing that we ever look back at this moment for years. We're never going to look back at this moment and say, Brian did this to you in this time. Keziah did this to me in this time. And I could say, man, it's been 6 years since that happened. Every time I look back at that moment, I always think about the love and connection that I had with my wife. I was very intentional about that, because what I know is when, I can't remember the exact number, but I'd say maybe like 70% of marriages that go through stuff like this, they fail right afterwards. I don't want to use the word fail, but they end up separating afterwards. And I said, I don't want to be a part of that number. I love my wife too much. And so I told her, I remember I stopped the car, pulled over to the side, and I thought about it. And I was like, hey, we're not going to hurt each other for 6 months from just this moment on. Because I never want us to look back at this and think, you know, Bryan wasn't supportive or you weren't this to me, in that time. So that was something that I think I did really well. What I didn't do well, man, I started drinking in that moment, something that I didn't really do in general, but every day I would come home. This was maybe about a week or two after it was done. Every day I would come home or go out or something of that nature. I would never get drunk, but I would always have something to drink. And it didn't, I don't know why I did that, to be honest. I felt like I was so numb to life and I was looking for anything to give me a little bit of a pull in a certain direction. Um, and so, especially as having been a new administrator for the school now, there was more responsibility on my head. There was more that I needed to do to be a leader in school, at home, to build, so there was so much on my mind, man. And I don't think there was, especially that aspect, I don't think I did things right. The other thing that I didn't do right was I didn't let it out properly. Uh, but that also was because, and I hope you guys listen to this, man. Too many people said to me in that moment, Bryan, I'm talking about like a day, maybe 2 days after everything was done. Bryan, uh, don't. This is more painful to your wife than it is to you. So you gotta hold it in. Um, what was the main thing? Suck it up. You gotta suck it up. I remember somebody literally told me that, like, you gotta suck it up, man. You got, and just take it. I was like, why would you tell me that right now? But I think I internalized some of those things as well. As much as I didn't fully believe it, I still internalized it. And it's something that I'm very open with now because like one of the things that I teach is letting it out. Because at the end of the day, we're gonna let it out somehow. It's like a vacuum cleaner, right? At the end, if you keep putting too much in, it's gonna come out some way, shape, or form. Either the way you do it manually to make sure that it's cleared out in a very clean way, or it's just gonna start spitting things in different directions and you have no control over it. And that's the thing. A lot of us sometimes because we don't deal with our issues, we the issues not control us, and it starts coming out in different ways that we don't necessarily have a strong control of our emotions, of our thoughts, and our actions. Um, and so there was a lot that I went through in that time. Suicidal ideation, just especially after work was done and the summer was over and there was nothing to pour my time into, and I had just summer. There was a lot that went through in my mind with that, but I think in those times, man, the thing that held me the most was my relationship with God, relationship with my wife, how I was able to just really start thinking about my own health and how I need to take care of myself, not just focus on anybody else. Not focus on my students, not focus even on my wife in that sense. Like, of course, like take care of her, but the best way to take care of her is also to take care of me. And so I had to learn to truly love myself and take care of myself in order for me to be the best that I can in those moments.
Yeah, Bryan, thanks for, really just your honesty, your vulnerability. But also, I think there were some really powerful examples of positive steps you took.
Yeah.
Those close relationships, essentially your community. Those last things you said, I think, really important. So, thank you. Again, I hope anyone who's listening to this recognizes it is important to be able to, deal with our stuff and to have a
Yeah.
place where we can feel comfortable that it's okay that we're having a difficult time, and that people are willing to receive and acknowledge that. Because, as you said, like if you just keep it all bottled up, eventually it's like that vacuum is going to burst, and you're not
Sure.
going to have control of it. Absolutely, Ed.
Yeah. One of the things I always share with people is a number of fathers out there are screaming and nothing's coming out,
Mm,
right?
That's real.
So I know we're coming up to time, but you have a very blessed lens on what's going on with young people.
Yeah.
What are you hearing them say that their parents may not be getting?
Mm.
Especially to our dads, our fathers, and our male caregivers. What are the things that you feel they may not be hearing that their kids are saying?
We need more of you. I think that's that's a lot of the voices that I hear when the kids talk to me. It's just, I need you. I don't need what you do for me. I just need you. And I think when fathers get that more, because sometimes our love language is service, or acts of kindness, or giving gifts and such. So we think that that's what also our children want, and that's what they need. But man, if we understand the power of presence, pop, oh, that's pop, yeah, pops, the power of your presence, man. Just take that with you. Learn to just be with your kids, even because this is the thing. When they get older, and now they're teens, or now they're older into their young adult ages, and then that's when we want to spend time with them. It's a hard switch, for kids to say, why would I want to why would I want to hang out with you right now? You didn't want to hang out with me before. You didn't see me as important as much before, so why now? And that's the thing. If we could just start those relationships at a young age, where those children see our desire to be around them, that will translate itself into every stage of their development. And they won't run from you. They won't run from you. Of course, there's going to be times where they want their independence and such, but those kids know, when they know that they have strong parents or fathers who say, "I'm here for you. Like, this is who I am. I'm here to give you my presence, my love, my care." They won't run from that. They won't truly run from that. And so I would say, just realize the power that you have in just you being very present in the life, caring about the things that they care about, showing understanding, showing empathy, and really listening to your children, taking the time to communicate and not talk to them, but talk with them. I think that it's a powerful gift that we are able to create with our kids. And the more, if we see how to connect with them that way, they'll be a lot more willing to connect and communicate with you in the future too. So I would definitely say, take that into consideration, realizing the power of your presence, for sure.
All right, Drew, 2 questions time.
Good question.
Yeah, Bryan. So thank you so much for, what you shared. And so we always want to leave dads with something very practical.
Yeah.
And so, what's one question dads should be asking themselves based on our conversation today? And then the next question is, what's one action step a dad can take to improve his fatherhood?
One question that dads should be asking themselves. I like the question of, I guess it was just based off of what we were just talking about right there. How much do I communicate with my kid? How much do I actually sit down and talk with my child? And then one actionable step is, the next time you have a conversation with your kid, I want you to challenge yourself to spend 30% of the conversation of you talking, 70% of the conversation of you listening. I think that'll be a great way to just connect, and for that child to realize, man, there is mutual respect and connection between one another. It's not just me having to say, but it's me also listening. So yeah, I think that would be it would be a great way to start getting the conversations going.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Bryan. Appreciate that.
No problem.
All right. So as we end the epic conversation, where can people get in touch with you?
Yeah, so they can reach me at bslspeaks.com. That's my website. It's where I do. It's where you can even book me to be a speaker for any conferences, for schools, or anything of that nature. My email is also info@bslspeaks.com. And I also host a podcast, it's BSL Speaks Podcast, that's focused on leadership development and helping to raise our younger voices as well. So it's about being a leader at home, being a leader in our schools and in our workplaces and our communities. This is really building up on this concept of leadership and what this really means. And so we're navigating and reshaping the viewpoint of what leadership means.
Fantastic, Bryan. I want to thank you for what you have done, are doing, and will be doing, not only with your family, but especially young people, because you're having a positive impact on the future.
Yeah,
And I want to say thank you for being very open, very real, and very intentional on sharing what you've been through. And we're all in the journey together. We're never there. So I appreciate you sharing that. And if there's anything Drew or myself can do to help you along the journey, we're all in this together. So thank you so much for taking the most valuable thing you have in your lifetime. And as always, don't just manage your time, manage your energy, and remember to give yourself grace.
Love that. Thank you so much. I really appreciate both of you. You host a very great podcast, and I'm looking forward to this, man. So thank you so much. You guys are doing a wonderful job.
Thank you so much. Take care. All right, Mr. Drew.
You know, Bryan may not realize it, but he is a wonderful father figure in the work that he does with those youth that are blessed to have him as a safe space or a sounding board or someone who can mentor or guide them and help them feel seen and heard, even if they're not able to get as much as they need or want at home. So, I just think Bryan, obviously he's focused at home and intentional at home, but he's also doing a great thing in terms of him blessing our youth as a father figure. So,
yeah. So much, not enough time to share, but what I will say about Bryan is he's made his test his testimony. And he's at a place in life that a lot of people are scared to go to, but he's willing to share his ups and his downs. And that takes a lot, let alone a human being to do, but a father and dad to do. And he is overcoming, we're all overcoming, but we're all works in progress. And I hope that this conversation will inspire everyone who listens to it, no matter where you're at, because even strong people struggle. Strong dads struggle, strong mothers, we all have our moments, but just for him to feel brave and safe enough, he never met us before, to share that. And I know that he did that because he knows it's bigger than him. Dads, fathers, caregivers, it's bigger than us. Just remember that. So as always, want to say the Dad Central Show was sponsored by Dove Men Plus Care. Dove Men Plus Care believes that care is the best of men, because when men care for themselves and others, there's a positive impact. We'd love to hear from you. Email address, podcast@dadcentral.ca. Suggestions, comments. Hey, what are some of your tips? And you can listen to replays of our epic conversation, dadcentral.ca/podcast, and lots of great free resources at dadcentral.ca. So as always, want to say thank you for giving the most valuable thing you have in your lifetime. And remember, not even Elon Musk can buy his time back. So remember that. And as always, don't just manage your time, manage your energy. And remember to give yourself grace. God bless, peace be well, keep the faith, and walk good.